Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to our monthly membership meeting for February. We're going to start this process with a roll call, so I'll turn the mic over to Mabel.
Andover A, absent. Andover B, absent. Last name, please. Andover E, absent. Andover G, absent. Bedford B, absent. Bedford F, absent. Bedford J, absent. Cambridge C, absent. Cambridge E, absent. Cambridge F, absent. Cambridge I, absent. Cambridge K, absent. Cambridge L, absent. Canton Court D, absent. Devonshire, absent. Dorchester D, absent. Fairfield A, absent. Fairfield B, absent. Fairfield F, absent. Gloucester C, absent. Gloucester G, absent. Gloucester J, absent. Gloucester K, absent. Gloucester M, absent. Gloucester N, absent. Highgate A, absent. Highgate D, absent. Highgate E, absent. Highgate F, absent. Highgate 3, absent. Inverness, absent. Knowles 1, absent. Knowles 3, absent. Lancaster 2.
Here. Name. Bro.
Lancaster 3, absent. Manchester 1.
Name.
Last name.
Vaccaro. Thank you.
Portsmouth, absent.
No, here. Name.
Last name.
Johnson. Thank you.
Quail Pass, absent. Radisson 1, absent. Somerset.
Here.
Last name, please.
Cordelli. Got it. Thank you.
Mr. President, you have a quorum of 76.7% with 77 association.
Thank you, Mabel. Before I call the meeting to order, I just want to say in deep sadness, we received a note the other day on the passing of our COA president and community friend, Charles Hassel, on February 14th. So I only knew Charles for about a year, but he was always a fun guy to work with, and he made it a pleasure to go into COA, offer coffee and cookies, and we had a great time. So I know he's going to be missed, undoubtedly, and I would like to get a moment of silence for our colleague and our friend. All right, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Thank you. Start with open forum. Do we have any open forum on the list there? Any open forum?
Yeah, I think there is.
Okay. At this point, according to the sign-in, we only have one person that actually is addressing an agenda item. That would be Jean Bucherri. The rest that signed up can do good and welfare.
Thank you, Ryan. Jane Bocherry, Director, Dorchester C. I'm going to read you an open forum speech I gave 3.5 years ago, but I think it's pertinent today. The definition of contract is very simple and straightforward. An agreement between two or more parties for the doing or not doing of something specified. An agreement enforceable by law. But writing a contract that works for both parties is a real skill. I don't have time to explain the deficiencies in this management contract, but I want to suggest a course of action going forward. Kings Point is a big business. We enter into multi-million-dollar contracts each year. What is lacking is the expertise of a contract consultant to help write these contracts so that the responsibilities of both parties are specified and enforceable. Recently, the Federation Board approved $15,000 for a landscape design, $3,000 for a schematic of the 1902 building, just a few examples of going out for professional advice before spending a lot of money. We are ready today to obligate this community to millions of dollars of expenditures for services that have not been properly specified and enforceable. An example of this is the communication between myself and the Vice President of First Service when the enforcement of the Mainscape contract was questioned. Referring to the L&L contract, quote, contractual disputes shall not be addressed with member associations, including presidents and POCs, but rather disputes related to the performance of the contract shall be resolved by the Federation Board of Directors or its, quote, authorized representatives. When directly asked if First Service was an authorized representative of the Federation, Maureen Connolly stated, quote, the authorized representative of the Federation is not outlined in our management contract, end of quote. No wonder we have problems enforcing the Mainscape contract. I'm going to stop my speech and just point out that the new contract does clarify this point, so I'm thankful for that. But I'm going to read you how it's clarified. Under no circumstances will First Service or an employee of First Service be designated to serve as the association's representative in any contract. Whether First Service is the right company to handle our management is not the question today. What is the question is, do we have the right contract in place to ensure that the residents of Kings Point will receive the goods and services they expect for the money they are contracted to spend? Rest assured, all contracts here in Kings Point specify clearly what the supplier will be paid on a monthly basis. What has been unclear in the past, and also with today's management contract, is what are we getting for the money we are paying? A no vote today will allow the board to go back to the drawing board and hopefully engage the services of a contract specialist to write a document for the benefit of both parties, a contract that is both specified and enforceable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, that takes us to the next line item on the agenda, which is the approval of the January 17th, 2020 draft Federation membership meeting. Do I have a motion from the floor to accept it as written? Got one motion. Second? All those in favor? Any opposed? It will be posted as written. Any corrections that you find or see, just simply submit them to Janice Kincaid and we'll investigate. Let's take us to the reports. Start with the management reports today. I'm going to turn the mic over to Rick Doswell to start.
Good morning. Next. The financials being completed by the 21st of the preceding month for those reports. And if you do need conference with Deb Lauber, please call the office and set that appointment up so you can become more familiar. I know with a lot of new treasurers and new board members, this is the time to just feel comfortable in your new role. We'll be talking about that more on Monday, but just take advantage of the expertise that Debbie Lauber has and fulfills here for you. Next. The First Service Residential, we have a couple associations still to go. We're following up and making sure that the budgets are completed and according to your numbers that you want for your budget going forward. We need those completed and into our office, so work through your community manager. We'll be sending out monthly assessment coupons the end of this month, the 1st of March, so you'll be getting those so that you'll have correct information on the amount that your assessment, which is due on April 1st, you can get that organized. So I want to, with 111 associations done, got 2 to go, want to congratulate all of the new elected officers and new board members and committee members. And because of that, next, it's time to get to work. Workshop. So this workshop, Webb Melton, who's the attorney for the Federation, he will be putting on the 718, 720 Florida statute requirements for new board members. It's a 2-hour course, and you would want to make sure that for all the materials that are going to be presented, all the worksheets for you are ready for you. Please, today, last day, I know Wednesday was probably the last day, but anyways, get with your community manager, make sure that you're going to be coming Monday. Registration will start about 9 o'clock. We'll have refreshments, and the course will begin at 9:30. All right? Goes to 11:30. Next. The OLM, we just had, as of yesterday, a OLM inspection because of the scheduling change that needed to happen on Monday. So OLM was able to do a grading inspection yesterday for sections 2 and 4. All right. And First Service, we continue to monitor the landscape contractors, and we have our tabulations and grow also to make sure that the palms and trees are trimmed correctly. Next. So the meet and greet, and Ralph may mention this too, but just want to make sure you hold that date. It's going to be in the banquet room next Thursday, February 27th at 10 a.m. All right, you will get to meet Grow Tree Services. Their team will be here and go over their program. Then following that, on Friday at 9 a.m., this is going to be in the waterside room. If you're in section 2 and 4, you're at 9 o'clock. If you're in section 1, Brightview, you're at 10:30. And if you're in section 3, Russell, you're at 1 o'clock, okay? And the program, the landscape committee, they have worked diligently. And Mabel's even made sure that they've worked. She's worked with them, and it's been great. So you're going to love and appreciate the information as a POC and as a board member. So these are really good, great workshops to participate in. And so there's your schedule. Next. Your work orders. I know some of you as new point of contacts, learning how to put in your work orders. If you are a point of contact and you are not a board member, I know we've changed this back, so if you're not a board member and the board has designated you as the POC to put in work orders, still use POC at fsresidential.com. POCs that are board members, please submit your work orders into your Connect Community Association website portal. And we'll be, as part of the workshop, Mabel, right, that you'll be going over that as far as the work orders, putting it in. And you can see the contractors are doing well. 23 work orders for the month of January, and we're about on track for 1 work order a day. So as we, and everyone appreciates the input that we get, but the hope is, and this is Mabel's hope too, that along with the landscape contractors, what's the number we want to see up there? 0. It's exactly right. What was the number 3 years ago? 823. 823. Then when you take the irrigation out, the component out, which is now at the master, that only reduced at 350. So, this is reduced with the diligence of each one of you here and the landscapers, and it's the thing called one contractor, one association. The system is working and tabulating and making sure we're following up on a day-to-day basis. So you can see each section has approximately 6 or so work orders, and so they're all doing well in their follow-up of their work orders. And the one that is most type of work order that they have that is being missed out of these 23 is pruning. They missed a plant, missed something on the pruning part, and you made note of that, and we track that. Next. And the making sure that in case of any emergency, calling the 642-8990 for property emergencies. But if it's a medical or personal emergency, dial 911. And I wish I had a picture of what I'm going to say next, because I just got from the treasurer at Worthington Association. Is Worthington here? Joe, maybe if you nod or you say yes, yes, yes to everything I'm going to tell you. Last night, this number was called, 642-8990. Customer care called me. I was able to get the call. I patched me through in the conference call with Stu Gibson, and he's the president of Worthington. And I assured Stu, but he assured me, no, Rick, you got it. You're going to take care of this like you've always done before. I said, okay, we're on it. So immediately I called Shauna, because I called Shauna. And Joe, you know how fast she was either jumped on that mule and got down there, and security also. They were contacted. So everybody was contacted. Then when I had that in the works, and Shauna, you're up there somewhere, thank you, awesome. And if I had a picture, this hole is huge. And you would lose a vehicle in it, right, Joe? It is that big, a potential of that big if you go over it. So it's all barricaded off. I called the county last night and said, it's not a water, we don't think it's a water issue, it's not geyser or anything, we don't think it's potable water, whatever. But the county sent a crew out last night, coordinated that with Shauna. They were there doing the underground utilities because they're going to have to do some digging. And the county being coordinated with Shauna and each one of us, our teams, all came together, and especially the Worthington team down there. And everybody is, so don't drive down Worthington Greens. That's my end comment. It needs to be fixed and repaired. And fortunately, nobody was hurt. And that's just a great response. Shauna, Joe, thank you, and each one of the team. That's it. Thank you. So the emergency number is really important.
Thank you, Rick. Next on the agenda would be Ginger for the Vesta report.
And away we go. Good morning, everybody. Get started here. I know you have a busy meeting. Here's your entertainment update. We've sold over 7,200 tickets so far for the Winter Series. Total amount collected there, 159,000. Recovered 213% of the entertainment cost. People ask me, what does that mean? Does that extra go in your pocket, Ginger? No, it does not. That is actually that's against what we paid for those acts, which would indicate we've spent a little over $70,000 on the entertainment. That doesn't count for any of the other activities that go against putting on a series, all the labor, moving the chairs, you know, the supplies, whatever. So that's why I report those numbers, because you've collected that much against those shows. The next show coming up is the Nowhere Band, February 25th, and they're performing Beatles music. So if you like that era, come on down. Okay, the team would like me to remind you about a couple things coming up. Spring garage sale, Friday, March 6th. It is Kings Point residents only. So they get a first glimpse of all the goodies, and that's from 4 to 6. And then the next day it's open, and it's from 9 to 1 here in the theater. And I believe they spread out and they're in the other clubhouse. It's grown precipitously. I know the lawn bowling group has a lot of tables. They're doing fundraising for their efforts over there. So see what there is to see on March 7th. Spring Fling is coming up. This is an annual event. We started, I can't remember how long ago. Let's see, probably about 17 years ago. And that's on March 13th from 10 to 2. And then the Follies would like a reminder for you all that they are performing April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Brandon Ballet tickets are on sale now. This is a very popular event. That's April 19th. Eclairs are served at 6:30. And we have a new event coming up. It's called Woodstock, a Kings Point Music Festival. We will be selling armbands for $3. That gets you onto the green. Now, if you're going to sit in your cart on the sidewalk or in the parking lot, you can do that. But to get into the whole experience and have the food trucks and the grassy area, and you can get out there early. Matthew and his team will have more information coming out about that, but it'll be 3 hours of peace and music, so wear your headbands and your dashikis and tie-dye. I know some of you still have them in your closet. Don't snicker. Okay, returning the produce market's still out there Wednesdays, and there is an exception for the Spring Fling Week, March 13th from 10 to 2. That's when they'll be there because of Spring Fling Week. Okay, the Sunshine Sizzler is March 16th to the 19th. I wanted to remind you all that we also have a voting day in the banquet room on March 17th during the Sunshine Sizzler. So parking for the very popular pickleball tournament will be over in the upper lot, and for golf carts in the green area. If you're voting, try to stay over in this area and behind the clubhouse. It'll just be pretty busy. We will have a lot of staff out there, you know, kind of directing traffic, but if you're coming up to vote, just be aware of that area. It's going to be a very busy day. Just wanted to remind you over in Cafe Refresh in the 2020 Center, we've got new salads and smoothie menus up over there. So if you'll note, the kale smoothie is no longer on the menu. So anti-kale. I liked it. I thought it was good. All right,
I don't mind it in salad, I just don't like to drink my
just don't
salad.
like to drink it. Here's your fitness center usage. We had a increase, just a 0.5% increase January over January. Actually, I'm sorry, a decline in January of a small percentage, but year over year it's up about 0.5%. Oh, geez, blame it on the wrist here. I'm a little snappy on the key here. Here it is in a graph form. You can see consistent year over year increase there. Here's your fitness and spa usage for January. Very, very busy month. That's our second highest month on record. Almost $30,000, folks, in January for serving serving 538 people, performing 946 services. A lot of that increase there attributed to the CA program. We served 47 clients there for a total of $2,000 in that month. In the fitness and spa area, just to see how that looks on salon and spa services and merchandise sales year over year, you can see a steady trend there. And the team would like me to just notice that we have a new member of the salon team beginning in March. Jessica will beginning start booking if you'd like to have an appointment. She is a native Floridian, 10 years of experience, and she does cuts, color, highlights, and perms. So with that kind of traffic, we've been fortunate to be able to get some real quality service in here, and she'll start soon. And it's that time of year again in the fitness program where we have to have several group classes, require tickets for admission. Residents present their Kings Point badge at the front desk to get a ticket. No guests permitted to attend these ticketed classes. They're just so saturated. And there is the schedule down below. I won't read all those, except they did add a new chair yoga because it was overflowing. If you have any questions, you can speak to Jen in the fitness program about that. Here's your guest pass and pointer ad sales. I won't read all these numbers to you. It just it shows you how busy our January and February's and March, for that matter, are. Okay, I'll go on to your lottery sales. Again, won't read these numbers. Kings Point did receive $523 in commissions on the lottery sales in January. Just topped over the $500,000 mark in total prizes to date on the scratch-offs. Here's your occupancy for transportation department in January. You'll note that number of trips goes out very low in January after really heavy months, and that will pick back up again. And then just a couple of projects. We are continuing in the card room with the sliders under the feet. We had a lot of those done and then found out they just had so much wear and tear that the sliders were coming off. The team's trying a stronger adhesive now that has to cure for about 24 hours, so they take about 5 chairs at a time. We've got 34 done, but since we've started this, we now have all the users of that room coming in and notifying us when the little feeties come off, so that's an ongoing process. The original lawn bowling green is undergoing a sprig replacement. That's about a 90-day process. In the 2020 Center upstairs, the flooring replacement is scheduled for the second floor hallway at the end of the month. We're looking into making some accommodations for that entry area where there's a lot of coming and going with food carts and residents having events up there and things like that. Been talking to the board about some options up there. The fitness floor project is awaiting the vendor schedule, but that will be after April 1st. We're going to try and disrupt fitness as little as possible. Here's your security numbers. I won't read all these numbers, except that you can see passes at the gate in January, almost 14,000 passes issued. Very, very busy month. And on notables, we did receive a call from a resident who stated she was on the floor and needed help. She confirmed she was a Kings Point resident, but unsure of her location. Security requested her to call 911. She said she couldn't. So we called, notified them of her number, and then called her back. They did end up finding out that she was, the security then did go to her home, where a neighbor said she wasn't at home, she was in a local facility. And we contacted the facility. We tried to circle all around. The reason I bring this story up is because we are asked a lot to call 911. Call 911 first. Don't put an intermediary. If you have an emergency, call 911 first. In this instance, this poor lady couldn't, I don't know why she called us first, but we tried to help her out the best we can. This is an extreme case. If you need help, call 911 first yourselves, because they're going to ask us questions we can't necessarily answer for you. And then secondly, a bicycle was piggybacking through the golf cart gate. The golf cart went through and they thought they'd just cruise through behind him, and the arm came down and hit the lady, and she did fall off her bike and was hurt. There were witnesses there and the guards and emergency squad. I hope she is on the mend and doing well. Again, I bring this story up to remind everybody, please, one vehicle, car, pedestrian, whatever, at a time through the gate. Don't try to be in such a hurry that you've got to piggyback on, because it can be dangerous. Finally, security wants you to remember, don't park on the grass. We are really trying to keep vehicles off the grass. Over here in the cornhole area by pickleball, and over here in lawn bowling and shuffleboard, the only areas where golf carts can pull up and go on the grass. There are going to be some bollards out here in front to try to keep the cars off the grass. And then at the South Club, we do have some overflow parking up in the Scepter parking lot, the kart staging area for the more heavy events, for those of you looking for vehicles. Sorry that was so long, folks. That's my report.
Thank you, Ginger. Please remember, we've instructed the gates that when you piggyback through, they're taking you out. Don't piggyback through. What is wrong with people? Good Lord. All right. Thank you, Rick and Ginger. Next up are the committee reports. I'll start at far end. I'll start with Rick. Do you have anything to share with us on the promotion? Okay, thank you. Dan, do you have anything to share with us on legal? No. Noreen, health and safety? Good. Dave? Oh, shoot, Frank, I didn't see that. Frank? All right, very good.
Just a quick update that the new schedule for April for the palm tree trimming is now on the kpscc.com website. Go to the landscaping section, scroll down, and you will find the schedule for your community. That's all I have.
Thanks very much. Dave, do you have anything with lawn and landscaping?
Lawn and Landscape Committee is happy to announce that we have finalized with Russell 2 additional fertilizations of our queen palms. Russell has coordinated for a March-April fertilization and an additional September fertilization of the trees. That brings us in compliance with best recommendations of keeping our palm trees healthy.
Great. Janice, I'm going to skip you because we have your program in just a few minutes. And Jack, contract?
Dave, that is for all sections that Russell is doing it, correct?
Correct.
In contract, we have 2 open items that we're working on. We talked to Vesta last year about changing the name on the trams to show the correct owner, which is the Federation subsidiary, and also the correct operator, which is Vesta. It used to read King Point Management. In getting those changes done, Vesta found out the Department of Transportation requires a lease to be carried in the glove box of those trams in case they are stopped or have an accident that shows that Although we own those trams, Vesta is the operator of those vans. We are working through the finalization of that agreement. The second thing which we've been working with Vesta on from a contractual perspective is we have an agreement with Vesta. It's a cafe agreement for them to operate the bar. The liquor license is in the operator's name, which is Vesta. And we wanted to ensure that if for some reason Vesta left this community, as you all know, liquor licenses are very expensive and sometimes hard to get. We are having our agreement updated and amended that if Vesta was to leave the property, that they will work diligently and do everything in their power to have that transferred to either the new management company or to the Federation, so we don't lose the liquor license at the South Club. And those are the two contracts they're working on, and I thank Vesta for their willingness to accommodate the board and getting things more in a legal perspective. One thing we did find when we went to look at the cafe lease, that it had expired, so that is being updated also, and that's the only contract that we have been working on.
Thank you, Jack. All right, very good. Very good. At this point, the President's report is on the agenda, so if you guys will bear with me for a few seconds here, we'll just go over a couple of highlights. Actually, this is the end of the year is coming upon us. Next month is the annual meeting, and it's obviously the elections. I think we only have one pending election at this point, so the board is going to be moving forward at this point. But actually, I was just kind of thinking back. My wife and I have owned here since 2011. We actually owned before we were allowed to come on the property and actually live here. So, I never really considered the Federation Board as being part of it. Hell, I didn't even know what the Federation Board was, actually, when I was off property. Until I came and sat right there where Dan is sitting this morning, and I looked down and said, this may be something I need to get involved with. And I stepped up to the mic, and I actually looked at one of the former boards, and I said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. What are your benchmarks for excellence when you're dealing with vendors? Honestly, they didn't give me an answer, and they don't have to. We don't have to answer. So nothing was wrong with that. But a gentleman right behind where Dan was sitting, his name was Dale Providence, tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want you to run for the Federation. So I said, okay, we'll do it. I originally started off kind of as a director of the Federation. And through a series of events that occurred, I ultimately became the president last year. When I took the mantle, I knew I had a lot to learn, and that was quickly pointed out by some of the old board members that came up and said, you didn't follow parliamentary procedures, and they were absolutely right. I didn't. And I said, thank you, and I will work on that. And ultimately, but I've seen that the old results were not necessarily pleasant and happy when procedures followed, so I'm not as interested in following those procedures. I am involvement, participation, and processes and progresses. And I think we've achieved some good things. You guys have bared with me, and we've worked together pretty well, and I appreciate that. So I definitely had a lot to learn. As my role became more clear to me, I wanted to provide transparency to questions that have been hanging over this board, all boards, and the community for some time. I also want to do some community sustainability programs where we generate revenues and hold down our expenses, not from your pocket, not from my pocket, but other opportunities we have within this community. And so we worked on something. Over the course of the presidency, I think our board has worked really well together. We've improved some landscaping contract. There's still probably some areas we need to touch on. We certainly have looked at the way things are, looked and understood oversight better, and we've done more oversight maybe than possibly in the past. And we certainly have secured more qualified counsel from our perspective. Things seem to be moving in a good direction. We are interviewing new auditors just to kind of shake things up and make sure we got new eyes looking at stuff as we move forward. We definitely have insisted that both management companies step up their pursuit of excellence and also their transparency in their operations. And I would say both of them have done a great job at rising to the occasion, sharing information with us more freely and more available. And we're trying to put that together in a way that we can share that more often and more properly with you guys, so you do know what's going on. You do realize we live in a very amenity-rich and community, and the amenities are a synonymous word with expense. We are unique from the standpoint that our amenities, some of them produce revenue, and that revenue can generate a surplus or a deficit. We've looked at the deficits, and we've tried to do things we can to cut them as low as possible. We've looked at places we can generate surplus that can offset things that never produce revenue, and we've done a good job, and Ginger's worked very hard in establishing some of those areas. So we're still working on it. I think we've made great strides. The board's been working to find answers to those looming questions that this community still has. Mostly people that were here some time ago. The new people may be going, what are you even talking about? The loan looms in everybody's mind at certain levels. Was it right? Was it wrong? What was there? We need to reduce costs. We had a grand experiment called the Cyber Cafe. We looked at it. I hate to tell you, it was a bleeding artery. It was a great idea, great thought. We tried it. It didn't work. We shut it down, and I think we're better because of it right now. We certainly have a building there. We need to think of what we can do and work with as we move forward. We are looking at new options for it, but at least we're not bleeding the kind of dollars we were. We made a good start. And one of the reasons we opened up the spa to the CA members. That program has actually worked out well. Am I right, Ginger? And the nice thing about it, I am sensitive to everybody in this room. You should not fight for a place at the bar. You should not fight for a seat at the spa. You should not fight for a place where you're at your amenities where you do. But if we work it right, and I think we have worked it right, there's never been anything more than an open chair that we filled with somebody else from the outside, and we're starting to get really good results from that. And that has not been a formal, big, focused process. It's really been more word of mouth and a little bit of PR out to the neighboring communities. It's worked out very well. So that's the kind of things we're looking at, because we're going to pay for it, folks. It's going to come from your pocket or somebody else's. I'm really good at somebody else's pocket. So that's what we work for. Through conversations we've actually had with members of our community, and ones that began well before actually I joined the Federation, we discussed ways of reducing costs and increasing these revenues to maintain the maintenance, the growth, and its necessities from someone else's stuff and not people from here. So overall, I think we've done a pretty good job. This board knows that. I think the board knows it, and we should. I say it. We've still left some money on the table. Everyone out there, we've cut expenses, we've cut budgets, we've done things that haven't been done possibly in some time effectively. We've done that, but we still have some ways to go. We've still got some money out there we should be picking up. I think everyone has to take on this board has to take some responsibility for that, and we know that money isn't created by common thoughts and common people by following standard procedures or a lack of creativity. It's only created with extraordinary thoughts, innovative thoughts, and looking at things in a different way. Community involvement, getting ideas and sharing ideas. We need more involvement in committees. And certainly reaching out to expert advice. There's no question in my mind that we do need. We are a small city, whether we know it or not, and you're asking homeowners, essentially, retirees, to run a small city. We're capable, we're doing it, we've gotten by, but is it time for us to consolidate, to move forward, to bring in experts that know how to do this stuff better and hold them accountable and work with them in more of a productive way? That's our questions we have to look at as we move forward in this situation that we're in today. Overall, again, I think we've done a good job and we're getting things done. There's no question about it. This board has learned that talking about ideas really isn't a good idea. But taking the necessary steps to make them become a reality would be exceptionally good for our community. So I thank you for all your support you've given me this year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next on our agenda will be the Insurance Committee report on the insurance agent.
Good morning. My name is Janice Kincaid. I am the chair of the Insurance Committee. And the Federation Board made the decision to search insurance companies for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. It had been since 2016, 2017 that the board had done a request for proposal, an RFP, for insurance coverage. The insurance committee sat down with First Service Residential on October 16th and 28th and came up with an RFP, which was vetted by our attorney, Webb Melton of Bush Ross. Attorney Melton then took over the RFP process at this time and sent out the RFPs to 8 insurance companies that the committee had researched. The RFPs were sent back in by November 27, 2019. An on-site meeting and site inspection was scheduled on Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, and the on-site visit and inspection was not a mandatory. However, we still had 7 out of the 8 companies attend, along with First Service Residential, Rick Dileswell, Attorney Webb Melton, and Board of Director Dan Hector. The bidders were then able to send in written questions that they had to Webb Melton. These questions were answered by Webb Melton, and the written answers were sent out to all the bidders by January 2nd, 2020. The RFPs were due in on Friday, January 24th, 2020 at 4 p.m. to Webb Melton's office at Bush Ross. The insurance committee traveled to Bush Ross to open the 7 insurance RFPs that were submitted. An 8th RFP was delivered late and was disqualified. The committee then took the next 5 days to read and evaluate and rate each insurance company using a checklist composed of 5 components from the RFP. We then met on Thursday, January 30th to discuss and evaluate the 7 companies and come up with our top 4 to bring in for interviews using the scores on the checklist. The interviews took place on Wednesday and Thursday, February 5th and 6th, 2020. At the completion of the interviews, the committee was unanimous in its choice of an insurance agent to handle Kings Point insurance coverage for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. At that point, we then took it before the Board of Directors, their meeting, which was Friday, February 6th, 7th, and it was approved it was approved 8-1 with the Board of Directors. So at this time, I would like to introduce to you the new insurance agent for Kings Point USI, and they're going to do a presentation at this time.
Hi, good morning. My name is Adam Lopatin. I'm Senior Vice President and run the condo division for USI Insurance on the west coast of Florida. It's kind of always funny driving over to an appointment and with a size of community like this and talking about who's going to get up in front and talk to them about it. Brian says he will, Kenny says I will, and then when Janice calls us up here, go ahead Adam, you got it. So real quick, I want to tell a little bit of a funny story before I get into who we are and about us and how we're excited to be here, and thank you for hiring us. So we did submit our RFP to the attorney Webb, and then Janice had called me for an oral presentation, and she said, hey, we're meeting on Wednesday at 10:30, and that was Wednesday, February 5th. I'll never forget that day because that is my wedding anniversary, my 20-year wedding anniversary, and we had plans to go to Vegas with my wife for the week and to get remarried by Elvis. So I was in the car with Brian, and Brian says to me, well, you know, Tiffany won't mind if we just move it to you fly out later to Vegas or the next day. And I said, I don't know if that's a great idea. I wouldn't call her. My wife's very easy with me. She lets me do whatever I want. I'm rarely ever home. So he made the call to my wife, and Tiffany is Irish, and is quick to temper sometimes, and basically said no, and that is not an option. So, and then Brian got in trouble, and then I got in trouble as well because she thought I put Brian up to tell him that. But anyway, and she also made a good statement, which is true. She says, well, if you did tell him that you were going to postpone your 20th wedding anniversary, they would probably think less of you than you did if you went to the meeting. And so that's why my wife was very bright. and smarter than I am, because she was correct. I did not go to the meeting, oral presentation. I went to Vegas and got married by Elvis that night. And Brian and Kenny and the rest of the team did do the presentation, and obviously they did a great job because we got hired. So that's my kind of funny story. Again, we're real excited. A little background. First of all, we're not an insurance carrier. We are your insurance advocate. We're a broker. What we do, one of the jobs we do, is we go out to all the carriers and submit applications and sell your account to those companies, and then bring those results back to the board. And the board makes a decision on what carrier they want to go with based on financial strengths, ratings, deductibles, and coverages, and then we bind coverage. So we're not the insurance company. We work for the board. We work for the community. We are the 5th largest insurance broker in the world. We're privately held by KK&R. We do over $2 billion in revenue. We insure more condos in the state than any other broker. Our office is located in Rocky Point. We have 250 insurance professionals, 20 of them that are on our condo team that will be responsible for handling your account on a day-to-day basis. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. Kenny's been doing it for 27 years, and Brian is the baby. He's been doing it for 15 years. So we're excited about being your representative. We've hit the ground running. It is a difficult marketplace out there, and I'll kind of get into that real quickly. So we can only deal with the marketplace. So we are transitioning from a soft market, where since '05, rates have been coming down. You're probably paying about half the premium you were back in '05 to what we call a hardening market. And we talk about a hardening market, that means rates are going up, carriers are pulling out, deductibles are increasing. So we have our job cut out for us. I'm confident we will bring the best results to the community, and we'll go from there. All right, any questions? I was getting a little nervous when they started calling out everybody was absentee. I thought maybe they shot the insurance on the agenda and they didn't want to show up, but it is exciting. I love what I do every day. I'm a morning person. I've had 3 cups of coffee already, so I'm raring to go. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, very good. And we will be excited to see how the transition comes about and how we all work together to make things go smoothly. I will just correct one thing that Janice said. Technically speaking, we haven't had an RFP, to the best of my research and records, ever here. So not just 2006. 2016, a competitor pushed their way in and brought new ideas to the table, but we haven't had an RFP. This is the first time this community has actually reached out and done an RFP where we have more control over the interviewing process and see what we've got. So it's a new, we're moving in a new direction within our community. So thank you. Thanks to the committee, and thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. All right. Next we have introduction of candidates for the 2020 Federation election of directors. And each candidate has 3 minutes. I don't think there are any candidates. So everybody's here. We're all candidates. So we got one, I believe. You have one in your district. What report? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have you written down there, Rick. I am doing your report at this point. But I'm going to turn it over to you because you look like a man who seriously wants to do that report. Okay, good. Not your name, though. My mistake. All right, Rick, we're going to let Rick Massame step up and give this report. That was just my introduction. Rick Massame, take it away.
He moves so fast you have to remind him every once in a while where we're at. And we do that just so he knows there's other people on the board. But I wanted to get here because I wanted to tell you, I stayed up all night to make an explosive presentation that there would be no way you could not vote at this coming election. Well, my presentation just got exploded because I was just informed that there will be no election. All of the candidates are now running unopposed. So, but still, I think you ought to hear from them. So in order of the district they're running for, I will present the candidate running unopposed, Ryan Setzer. You have 3 minutes and we will be clocking it.
Go. You guys, I think after this year, you know me. I still have ideas and information. We made a good. We've made a good start with insurance and evaluations. I still think there's other places to go with it. We've still got other ideas that we should be putting involved. I have thrown out 3 things in community sustainability. Insurance was one of them. Real estate was another one of them. We've got ideas, and solar, converting to solar in all the areas that we can to reduce our expenses and to move forward into the future is another area that we need to certainly focus in on and make certain we're working with effectively. So District 1, we've got grass issues, we have turf issues, we all own them, we all have them. We're going to be working on that. I think we're somewhat close to making some determination. I think if I'm not mistaken, the last conversation with the master was, if you guys don't want it, work with your people, give it back to us, we'll take it. I mean, we're going to make grass grow in this community. That's as simple as that. And we'll figure out how to do it at some level. I think Jack can do a dance around it maybe somehow, and maybe, I don't know. But no, I'm very happy that we'll be moving forward together and make some things happen and get some things done. Thank you.
Now that's energy. I can remember having that a few years ago. Thank you, Ryan. Our next district is District 7, being also unopposed, is Janice Kincaid.
Good morning again. I am currently the Secretary of the Federation Board. I just found out this morning that I am now running unopposed. Thank you, David, so much. I served on this board for the past 2 years, and I am looking forward to serving Kings Point community for a second term. 2 years ago, my main reason to run was that I felt that the Federation Board needed fresh ideas, new blood, improved communications, and to be transparent. I also hope to improve the relationships at the time between the Master Association and Federation Board of Directors. The board got all new directors who have a lot of great ideas and a tremendous drive to serve the residents of Kings Point. The communication between the residents has greatly improved, between the board with the residents, and this board is overseeing a lot of the bulk contracts and working closely with the management companies. We also have been meeting with the master to talk and discuss how we can combine to become one association. In looking forward towards the future, it is definitely time to combine the master with the federation into one association that would handle Kings Point along with a professional city or community manager. After all, as Ryan said earlier, we are as large or larger than a small city, so why not operate like one? This concept will improve not only our cohesiveness, our efficiency of time and resources, because it will lower the expenses to the membership. I truly believe that with your vote, we can accomplish this goal together. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice, and all of you know, as you get up in years, supposedly we're going to lose some of our memory. Well, I want to thank Janice for being so concise with the notes she puts together and presents them the next day to us, or that very same day, because then I can remember what happened at the meeting. Our next candidate in District 8 is Mr. William Rabb. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Rabb. I've been a resident, my wife and I, of Grantham since April of 2018. Am I the only new face that's going to come up here as a candidate? I thought so. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit about my background. I've been committed to community service for quite a number of years. It's been a major part of my life, both in my private life and in my business life. That all started when my kids were in elementary school. I was on the board of the local parish home and school association. I was the treasurer for a couple of years. I was the president. Was involved in other community groups like the Lions, like the American Legion. Eventually, I ran successfully for the school board. I was on the school board for 5 years. I was vice president for 2 of those years. I chaired the committee that totally rewrote the policy manual for the district. That involved not only the administrators, but also our legal counsel. It also involved the Pennsylvania School Boards Association. Later, I chaired the negotiating committee, which negotiated a teacher contract. And in Pennsylvania, board directors serve for 4-year terms. The teacher contracts are usually 3-year terms, so every board term someone's going to get the wonderful job of negotiating a teacher's contract. In business, I spent 40 plus years in the life and health insurance business, focusing on employee benefits, something that USI is quite familiar with because they also have a life and health and benefits department. I worked my way up from rookie sales rep to vice president of sales and marketing. Among my responsibilities in that job were field operations, which were all the sales offices. I managed the $10 million budget. I was responsible for marketing, for product development, and I also developed and implemented a 6-week training program for new recruits. But I continued to serve my community, in this case the insurance industry. I sat on 2 committees of trade associations, including 4 years on the dental committee of the Health Insurance Association of America, which I chaired for 2 years. I was also on the board of directors of the Philadelphia Association of Health Underwriters and the Pennsylvania Association of Health Underwriters, where I was the legislative chairman, and that involved, of course, lobbying the state legislature. Since I moved to Grantham in 2018.
Time out, Bill. Sorry, the 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
We go by the book here, young man. And you'll learn that as you go. There's not much I can say about Bill because I don't know, except I appreciate the fact that he's come out to work for the community, and I know you should all feel that way as well. Next, we have District 9 unopposed is Alan Hahn.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, I'm running for a second 2-year term as director of the Federation. I have served faithfully for the past 2 years as director, as your District 9 representative and treasurer of the Federation Board. Some of my accomplishments include saving money by finding errors in several insurance and attorney bills. In the annual budget process last year, I found errors and corrected them in the spreadsheet that was used to distribute insurance costs to the associations. There was a problem with the Federation recording its lawyer bills in the legal fund with its limiting bylaws and administrative code requirements. I solved that issue by separating the Federation legal expenses into a newly created account called Professional Services. There was confusion about the treasurer's report and just what the Federation was responsible for. So I developed a broad financial presentation that highlighted the items the Federation develops and oversees. It showed the financial items are presented in either association's monthly financial statements, quarterly in the trust financial reports by Vesta, and quarterly in the Federation Treasurer's reports. This report showed that the Federation was responsible for about 2/3 of every owner's total fees, including about 1/3 in bulk contracts and about 1/3 in the clubhouse facility and program expenses, and a small sliver of items, about 0.5%, that represents the administrative cost items that the Federation spends directly and reports quarterly in the Treasurer's report. Many members have praised me for this illuminating report. I also saved $800 per year eliminating an unnecessary bond to TICO that had been there for years. I want to continue on the Federation Board to finish the open items we've been working on the past 2 years. The main item is the task of determining the best way to organize the governing leadership structure of Kings Point. This could involve changing and/or combining the Federation and Master Boards, and could come up with an entirely new structure. This will involve extensive review and input from the community and direction from expert consultants. My past involvement in Kings Point includes the following. As board member, former board member, treasurer, and president of Richmond Villas HOA, I was instrumental in working with the attorney and board in restating our declaration of covenants and restrictions and rules to better represent our homeowners association. I also, as president of our association, led the process of painting all of our homes in our neighborhood last year. My master's degree in business management and my skills and work experience have helped me be a good Federation director. I have 30 years work experience as assistant superintendent and business manager for 4 school districts in Illinois.
Okay, Alan, time out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Years ago, we started the association in Richmond Villas. I had the honor of being the president and generating that association. At that time, for about 4 years, Alan worked together. Alan and I worked together, and now we work together here on the board. And he always knows what he's saying, but I don't always understand it. But thank you, Alan. I'd like to say one thing which has got nothing to do with elections, because I've been asked by a number of my association presidents. I am in favor of one board for Kings Point. I've been on a number of boards. I've been fortunate enough to be a president of a large company. I know of no large corporation or any corporation that can function properly with 2 separate boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. One thing I'd like to say to William, welcome on board in another month, but just like I did last year, I'll do the same thing. You got a lot of reading to do before you come on board. Read all the contracts, because we all come up with great ideas, and sometimes it looks like none of us know what's going on, but we're driven by a lot of legal documents, a lot of stuff that we're correcting and working on as we go, so we love your input and your contribution there. All right, thank you very much. Okay, next on the list is unfinished business, and there is no unfinished business. We have some new business. We have the property management contract that everybody should have received, and hopefully you reviewed. You'll have some questions. This morning we're going to have a presentation on that contract by Rebecca C. Pronounce your last name. I'm sorry? Rebecca. She's kind of new to the property. She's been here now for a while. She's making things happen, getting things done. She's shaking up the workforce there, trying to get people back on track and deliver on the deliverables and promises within those contracts, the specifics, and she's doing a great job at it so far. So I think she'll give you a good synopsis of the contract, and if there's any questions after that, we'll be open to that. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was getting to that. Dyslexia, I work in different order. We're going to get a motion from Tom Ricketts. Tom, can you introduce yourself and your association, please?
Yeah, I, Tom Ricketts, president of Gloucester E, move that the Federation membership approve the First Service Residential Florida Incorporated contract as previously distributed, including any non-material changes as required for Kings Point Association Property Management for a 3-year term beginning April 1, 2020, and being inclusive of all services listed in the statement of work that includes funding on-site employees, salaries to be distributed and administered solely at the discretion of the agent.
Thank you. Now, do I have a second? Got a second? Any discussion, Tom? Do I have any discussion? That would be Rebecca. See how this whole thing comes back to Rebecca.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being so patient. And I'm just going to go quickly through the slides, and then I'm going to address some touch points that have been brought to my attention. So one of the big things, you can go to the next slide here. There we go. Is that better? Hello? There. Some of the key improvements in this contract, it's a streamlined combination of an older contract and a newer contract, which makes it a little more user-friendly for the associations, the federation, and you as community members. There's going to be an addition of more staff to serve your needs, increased notification of observed holidays, so you guys are well aware if the office is closing early or if they're going to be gone a half a day. Improved communication and transparency, increased property inspections. There's no increase in the price per unit. This is the last 3 years required to putting the contract out for RFP by the association bylaws. There's going to also be a little mild restructuring with additional staffing, with improved staff and resident support. One of the things, my personal goals, was to get clearer expectations from you as members and residents, clearly define the roles and responsibilities of the manager and the staff in the office, and improved customer service. Can you go to the next one? So there's just the breakdown of the monthly fees, which if you all have received a copy is in there. And then there's the annual breakdown. Go to the next one. So some of the value adds, there's a couple things. Improved technology and workstations within our offices there. We have a lot of cams. We have a lot of great software. I don't know how many of you are familiar. We have a Connect portal, which is wonderful. You can get your information, your financials there. The postage machine lease, copier support, uniforms, associate appreciation, continuing education, not only for the staff, but for residents. I would like to do a little more coffee and connect or coffee and chats so we can get some feedback on a more regular basis of how we're doing. Cleaning, office cleaning, the shredded, trash disposal, those are all things that are a little ramped up this year. The next thing, and that's just kind of it for the slideshow, one of the things I wanted to touch on was I do think it is important when you guys are reading a contract and to echo Jane's sentiments of professionals. Well, Webb Melton, your attorney and the First Service attorney, worked very, very hard along with a lot of volunteers from the Federation Board and myself. I'm losing my voice a little bit, so I'm going to apologize there. So some of the concerns, questions that I was handed a little bit ago, and I wanted to touch on those. Who is the association? If you guys, I don't know if you have your contracts with you, on the first page, there's definition. There's, under B, there's a definition of the Federation, the definition of the member associations, and the definition of the Federation Board. So some of those associations you'll see throughout here will apply to the member associations and will apply to the Federation Association. I'm just reading on the questions here. One of the other terms, I don't know if you guys all have them in front of you, I wanted to flip through. If you'll notice, there is a removal of PCAM for the designation of general manager, and it just states manager. And that was kind of done to open up the employment pool. Florida has a less than, 2.6% unemployment rate right now. So with Rick's departure, it's going to be a challenge to get somebody in here of the level and skill. So we really wanted somebody with city planning, strong HR, somebody who can come in here and just really oversee with a strong background. That's not saying it's not a PCAM, it's not saying it's a CMCA, it's not saying it's any of those things. We wanted to open that pool to maybe hospitality industry, somebody with city planning experience, just to get a better pool of candidates. Obviously, they're going to need their licensed CAM in the state of Florida, so that's one of the important factors. One of the questions was the staff positions and the restructuring. A little bit of restructuring, I think, is going to help as well. One of my presentation points was possibly to elevate like a senior CAM to help oversee the CAM, oversee the property visits, make sure you guys are really getting your money's worth there so things don't fall through the loopholes. That person's also going to help with formal education, training, getting those people really up to speed, keeping them sharp on their toes. And then the other thought was elevating within for maybe like an executive admin position to help the general manager. So these would all kind of be internal changes with no additional costs or changes in the contract. Another question was about benefits. We do shared benefits, that's in our standard contract, so all the employee benefits is a shared benefit. We have a benefit service, it's wonderful, so that's something we do address in the contract. Another thing I did want to touch base on, one of the things pointed out was about the agent or authorized agent. Authorized agent is somebody power to act on your behalf. So what that means is that's more like your attorney, your insurance agent. You want to be able to make decisions. CAMs are property managers. CAMs work at the leisure and pleasure of the board. So they really work for you. They shouldn't be making your decisions. They should be guiding you, educating you, being a conduit between the vendors, the contractors, the processes. They should be helping you build your budgets, working on solutions, qualifying renters, helping with the sales project, doing property inspections, all those things. So it's really important that that distinction was made. So, what, do you want me to ask questions or anything else?
No, that's the conclusion of your presentation, right?
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was any touch points that you wanted me to hit, otherwise.
At this point, questions, do we have questions? It's your contract. You guys should be involved in the conversation. Do you have questions? We do?
The only thing I have, Rebecca, you have discussed CAMs going out into the field, which seems to have dropped off over the last few years. Could you address what your intentions or First Service intentions are regarding the CAMs?
So I'm a big educator. I'm big on education and training and hands-on. So I actually, when I'm here, I'm actually driving the property and looking at your associations, especially when I'm getting emails. So I'm actually taking the time to look. So one of the things I want to do is lead by example. So I think it's very important that the CAMs are out there leading by example, and I want them to do more property visits. And that's something residents, board members, you all have shared equally. So that's something I do think is important, and it is part of their job and their job description. So I'd like to see a little more of that this year. And there's going to be a little more accountability. We're going to do a little more frequent performance evaluations with the CAM, a lot more education, and I think with some of that restructuring, it's really going to help them and motivate them. And they're really excited about it, so that's a good thing.
Thank you. Jane?
I'd like to just make one comment. Maybe to the chagrin of First Service, but the cost of the contract for the upcoming year is no higher than it was last year, in spite of the fact that we've increased personnel by 2 or 3 and other expectations of the work that they're doing. Changes in the computer system, they're buying all new computers to run the software on and things of that nature. So we've done real well with this contract, it's fair to them. But I just want people to know that it's not costing them more.
Hello. Thank you, Dan. Okay.
Hello. Good morning. Jane Norton, Nantucket 2. Yes. We have an item for discussion. I have a presentation, and we will be handing out some questions to the membership. I would like to present this.
Is it relative to this contract? Relative to, okay. We didn't have the presentation up front loaded up and stuff, but if you want to ask us questions, feel free.
I'm asking for this to be put up on the screen so people can read it. We will also be handing them out to the membership, but I felt that it would be a better presentation if we could show them on the screen. If you want me to read them, I'll be happy to read them. Okay.
Jane, we didn't have a chance to see it before, so, you know, I know you. I'm reasonably safe with you. I'm hoping your pictures are correct pictures and not your party that you might have had sometime in the past. Yeah, go ahead. Can we load that up in any way? Now?
It's on a flash drive. It's pretty easy. It's just a PowerPoint.
Are we capable of loading up? Oh, no, I think we're working on the technical aspects. That's why we, that's why we do this in advance. Yeah.
I can read this in 3 minutes if you want me to read them.
Yeah, if you want. While she's loading up, if you want to start reading, go ahead and just, that I think will be good enough.
This contract has somewhat the appearance of an off-the-shelf boilerplate.
A little closer with the mic. Thank you.
This contract has somewhat the appearance of an off-the-shelf boilerplate contract designed for some other individual association rather than a carefully crafted contract addressing the specific needs of this 113 federation of associations existing on a community-wide basis here in Kings Point. If this contract does address these concerns, please explain and elaborate for our understanding. Explain how this contract adequately addresses both the community-wide needs and simultaneously satisfies the individual needs of each member association. The management company's primary responsibility must be the managing of each member association with additional bulk contract management responsibilities
Okay, Jane,
to the federation.
Let's answer a question at a time. That way we actually will be able to answer. So let's go back to your first question, Jay. What was your first question?
There was no question. That was a statement.
Your store orator.
That was a statement.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. A visual and oral presentation on all items and terms of the contract would greatly improve the understanding of the members' $3,708,072 financial obligations, representing a 20% increase over the current contract during the next 3 years. The provided staffing guarantees and general confidence in this multi-year contract. Why not take the time to build confidence in the process and give unit owners time to digest the language and send comment to his or her association president? The following are just a few questions critical to the member association presidents to have resolved prior to voting for this contract. This list of questions and related concerns is to clarify and assure the upcoming contract has the necessary specificity to guarantee each served association will be provided the services necessary to operate and safeguard the individual association and the individual unit owners. Who is the association? Language keeps flipping back and forth between federation and member associations. The contract appears to give unprecedented authority to the Federation Board to have access to member association information throughout, and specifically page 10, item 12.7B2.
That sounded like a question.
That's a question.
Let's stop right there and we'll throw that one to you. Let's do one at a time. That way we'll be able
That's
to
fine.
answer your questions efficiently. All right, well, we got to the questions. Let's go ahead and get to the questions. Do you have the handout, by the way?
Yes, so the first one, and you guys are not probably appreciate
If
this
we'll turn
one.
the lights up, it would be good.
Yeah.
Can you, good. Go like this.
One of the things with this contract is my contracts department now dislikes me very, very much, especially the attorney in it. And you hit a nail on the head with the boilerplate. We streamlined the contract to the first service contract and brought in a lot of the elements of your old contract. If you notice the descriptions, one of the things I really fought for was trying to get those descriptions down to a T to make this a little more unique to the community. It is pretty much a standard contract, which, you know, it is something we can't work with, but that was between the attorneys, so I don't know all the details of why this was the final thing, but I know the details of what I put in, what working with your board and working with Jack and hearing the residents put in. So it's more of a streamline for this association than what I think maybe it appears to be. There was a lot of hours put in of, no, that doesn't work here. We got to do it this way because I see this every day. This is what's happening here. I'm here on the property. So that's why I said my contracts department does not like me very much right now. So one of the things is keeping those descriptions in the back, if you see the back of the contract, and addressing some of those additional staffing needs for the community. So I don't think that's one question.
All right, question number 2. It's your bullet points, correct? Jane, that's just your bullet points on the thing. That's your question. Go ahead and read your second question, please. Oh, no, that's okay.
Oh, that was a different question. So page 10, item 12. So the access for information, is that what you were hitting on? The access for information, as you know, some of that is denoted by Florida state statute. So that's why this is kind of broad in this contract, because obviously this can't override the statute. So that's where that's delineating who gets what information.
I think the question we had was that it was not clear that whether the Federation Board would have access to the association's financials, information, and so on. That is not clear. It keeps flipping back and forth. Association, it's using association in many
Ambiguously, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I
So
mean,
when it's referring to the association officers and directors, that's the member association, and when you go to section 3, it specifies federation, so it is separated out.
No, it's not. Definition on page 1.
the definition on page 1 is very clear, but when you don't use member association, it just says association. Who is the association? Is it the member association?
If the contract was amended to read member association, would you have a problem with that?
It depends on where it's used.
No, you're speaking specifically of 12.7B2, the word association.
Well,
And if
who
it
is
was
the
changed to
association?
member association as defined on page 1, would that?
In that specific instance, yes.
Okay.
But on to other, I mean, throughout this whole contract,
That
it's
is the specific instance you're talking about right now,
I
correct?
gave an example,
Okay, well, okay.
but it's throughout the contract.
No, we will change it to read member association where it reads association.
Fair,
Yeah,
okay?
that's appropriate.
Does that work for you? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Does that work for you?
Are we going to get a revised contract?
Sure. We can work on that. We can work on that.
Ryan?
Yes.
This is not right. You're putting her in a position to answer for all of us. We need to have a special meeting for this. You can't.
That's why I'm asking if we're going to get a revised contract to vote on before.
Okay.
It's the membership's contract. We want to make sure that we've been through this before, and we've actually improved because of it. So I don't have a real problem with making sure that we're all comfortable with what we get and what we go forward with. So, your second question?
Please specify the additional services member associations will receive for the initial 13.7% fee increase over the 2019-2020 budget and the 20% increase over the term of the contract.
So a lot of those increases are allowing for cost of living, increased benefits, workers' comp, that sort of thing. That's where a lot of that structure is. And just overall increased expenses predicted for the future.
And can you briefly touched on this one before, but why the skills required, the PCAM license for the general management of Kings Point community has been downgraded while the costs are going up?
It's not been downgraded. What we did was we took that requirement out to open the talent pool. We're getting resumes in right now with PCAMs, CMCAs, hotel, hospitality. Not all states have a designation requirement. So a lot of the talent we're looking for is a lot more city administrative, public administration. You've got a lot of moving parts here, and that's one of the things. We're not alleviating that out. We're actually just making it more open to get more candidates in. So we really just want the qualified person. We're not looking at a specific designation to just eliminate anybody out. We want to open the pool up so we get the right candidate in here who can really make some of those changes. It's going to be really hard to remember. It's going to be really hard to replace Rick and his historic knowledge. That's invaluable.
Rebecca, you also increased the contract quantity by 2 people, am I correct?
Correct.
And that leads into the next question. Please define all the staff positions with a detailed organizational chart and specific job duties for each position. We're told we have 2 more positions. What are those positions? What are their qualifications? What is their duties? I mean, this is just you know, very ambiguous.
Yeah, and some of that is going to be internal staffing structure and restructuring when the new GM comes on. One of the things we did add for and leave open was an additional landscape person, since that is one of the major issues here, and an additional administrative assistant. And that administrative assistant would be more to help the CAMs, help the landscaping, kind of streamline some processes there to get things flowing a little quicker.
And regarding page 12 for additional staff, if applicable. It appears the association, and again, we're not clear who is that association, is that the board and First Service can agree to additional staff with the accompanying costs without further approval from the members? How would we budget for that?
So since this is a fixed fee contract, what we have in here is what we have to kind of stick with. If we would bring somebody on or need to bring somebody on, obviously we would have to eat that cost, but it would be obviously an addendum, and it would have to, you know, be rebroached like this again if it was something outside of this scope.
But again, it's not stating that it comes to us for any kind of a membership vote.
It would have to go to the membership if the contract was increasing financially. So it is a requirement under statute that we would have to bring the contract if additional employees were hired and additional costs were incurred. That is a membership approval requirement, so it's automatically required to be approved.
Okay, can that be added to the contract? And where in this contract does it prohibit any financial practices like those occurring with the master board operations, whereby a First Service employee's benefits are apparently paid by a master board member, who in turn is reimbursed for more master funds? Is that a policy?
Yeah, she's that mic right there.
When Shauna was hired, she had planned a business trip to Paris, France, and she missed the window of opportunity to sign up for her medical coverage. And we consider her extremely valuable. And for 1 year, I think it was like $125 a month, was paid out of my credit card to ensure her that she would have medical coverage, which we felt very strongly about. And that was reimbursed, and that only lasted a year, and she's now signed up under the First Service medical plan.
It's been
Were you reimbursed, Jane, by the master?
Yes.
So the master paid for an employee's insurance is not your employee?
That's correct, but we felt it...
And you never advised the members that you were paying for insurance of a First Service employee? The master board did not?
I guess not. We felt it was
Have
important.
you issued a 1099 to her for those additional fees that you paid?
I don't know that. I'd have to check. I don't know the answer, Jack.
Well, I would think that you have a requirement under federal statute to issue a 1099 if you are paying an employee.
And I don't know if we did. I'll have to find out. I don't know, Jack. I don't know the answer.
Was it
given what Sean has done, I would have been happy to have paid for it.
I mean, it's the same thing as we hired sheriffs that we were responsible to pay and issue W-2s to. Would you also find out if the master issued W-2s for those sheriffs? Because they were not, according to the contract you signed, contract employees.
I can get you an answer to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
I would just like to know if this contract prohibits that from happening for any future board members. I mean, we have no employees. The Federation has no employees, neither does the master. So why would this be allowed to happen?
Can you answer that?
We don't, occasionally things do happen unfortunately like that. Usually what happens in other board situations is, you know, they discuss it and they agree if there's a payment, you know, it's discussed amongst the members. I can't speak to what happened there because I'm speaking on the Federation contract. And in our contract, it's a shared service benefit, which all employees have a window. It's very well publicized to sign up for. They can choose to accept it, they can choose to decline it, and that's how it's ran.
Okay, in a situation, could there be, I'm sorry, Jack.
Is there any reason you cannot add a prohibition into this contract? It's a non-material change. Can we add a prohibition that would prohibit the Federation from paying for any services provided to a First Service employee? Well,
I mean,
healthcare or anything else. Because there is a prohibition, and I think it would be very easy just to add.
I think it would be easy, but I think that is something our attorney and your attorney would discuss.
Okay.
I don't feel it should be an issue.
Okay.
Excuse me, Vicki Ryan, Bedford A. Regarding that, if I understand correctly, the Federation bylaws prohibit you from entering in anything that's going to cost the members money without them without them voting. So that prohibition's already there. So an amendment to the contract, all that's going to do is put money in lawyers' pockets. Because if you break that,
Was, Vicki, was this
You are
for a
correct.
service
The
policy?
Federation operates differently than the master. Our
I don't care about the master. I'm just
Our
talking about-
financial, if we have anything that is going to be a financial change, that it has to go to the membership for approval.
so therefore, if First Service took it upon themselves to do anything, or if the Federation Board approved more money to the to First Service,
It would have
and
to
we
go-
found out,
It would have to go
then
to the
we
membership.
would- yeah.
It would have to go to the membership.
it would
for
have to go.
approval.
So having it in their
The
contract is just
question
redundant.
was, this has been being reimbursed to a board member. So if you went out and bought paper and got reimbursed, it wouldn't come to a membership vote. This is what I want to stop from happening. This is not right. If it's a legitimate purchase, fine. It gets
If we
reimbursed
went
to a
out
board
and-
member.
If we went out and bought paper and the Federation wasn't reimbursed that individual for the paper, it comes out of the Federation's budget,
already
which
approved.
the membership have approved.
I think there's a big difference between an approved expense that the members have voted on and something that was done behind closed doors.
This is the question.
And so this board isn't allowed to do anything that involves money behind closed doors. It all has to come to a membership vote.
Okay. But if I put that under supplies, Vicki, what's going to stop it?
Okay, well, let's go to your,
Need a
let's go to
forensic audit?
Jane, can we go to your last bullet point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If we restructure the governance of Kings Point, is there a jump clause that allows us to adjust the contract for the new structure or allow for renegotiation or termination of the current contract?
There is the termination clause in there. There's not a jump clause per se, it would be an addendum. So that's all I mean, you can always add an addendum, you can always terminate, there's always that flexibility for that.
Okay, and these are just questions
No,
that
those
the
are great
residents had to
questions.
clarify.
Great
And I
question.
thank you for your
If the
time.
Federation no longer existed, the contract would therefore terminate, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Mike, you look like you're moving in the background there.
Mike Bardell, President of Oxford One. I motion to commit the proposed association manager contract to a committee of Federation member presidents to make proposed changes to the contract for presentation to the Federation membership for its consideration. I think we've all heard enough that this needs to be remanded.
There is already a motion on the floor that we are discussing currently.
And I'm asking for an amendment to have this thing tabled.
So you're well,
I just made-
postponed. Are you saying postpone?
I think the word in Robert's Rules of Order is commit. But that's, yes, table it, whatever.
Okay. Do we have a second to table the issue? Is that what I'm hearing? Or postpone it to another time?
Can he reread his motion?
Can you read your? Because you didn't.
My apology, I thought it was done.
All right. We went through this with one of the landscaping contracts. This is what we go through. This is part of the process. I understand that.
I motion to commit the proposed association manager contract to a committee of Federation member presidents to make proposed changes to the contract for presentation to the Federation membership for consideration.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's saying he wants let me make sure I understand what you're making a motion for. You want to create a contract committee of federation presidents, of association presidents to review.
Yes.
Okay.
And to make proposed changes to this.
To suggest proposed changes, and then present that to the federation
Under Robert's Rules
and
of
the
Order.
membership board.
Under Robert's Rules of Order, he'd either have to amend the motion, which would be a specific amending of the motion, in which I didn't hear Mike actually saying, this is the way I want the amended motion to read. Or he would have to ask for a postponement of the motion, or ask to have the motion withdrawn. And that would be up to Tom.
Which is where the way we did it with the landscaping. If the people that were here remember that, I remember this guy right here bringing a stipulation, and then there was a motion made to postpone.
I'm just making the motion as.
You're actually making a motion.
He's making a motion, and there's already a motion on the floor.
We can't go with a
Must be
motion to
addressed.
create a committee to analyze something that's already, we'd have to make a motion to postpone, and then the motion to come up with the committee suggestion. So are you making a motion to postpone this discussion, or this vote on this contract? Is that what I'm hearing or not?
I'm also asking that this be enlarged to a committee of larger proportion to get a right contract. There's no problem with first service, but you want a good contract. This is a 3-year contract, and it involves a lot of associations and a lot of responsibilities, and there are a lot of things that are not spelled out, as I saw.
Mike, coming into this community over the last few years and looking at contracts that have been done in the past, I can't agree with you more. They have never been exceptionally good. So I get you. So I get you. Now, the question is process.
That's fine.
At this point, we can't move forward with your motion, Mike, because okay, you want to step up and say something, Eileen? And I'm not fighting it. I get what you're saying and I understand it. And I'm not.
What I'd like to do is, since everyone seems to be an expert, how about if we quote Robert's rules about the type of motion that you are talking about? Per Robert's rules, what I believe he made, is a subsidiary motion. That's the same as if it were tabling or postponing or any of those kind of things. It says, if proper recasting of a main motion will require time or study, the subsidiary motion to commit, which I think is the term he used, which is adopted by a majority vote, can be used to refer the main motion to a committee. When the committee reports, it normally recommends appropriate amendments for the Assembly's consideration. Such a committee can be a special committee appointed only for a particular case, or it can be one of a number of standing committees that may be permanently established within the organization. A secondary or a subsidiary motion, like I said, is no different. Motions to table, motions to postpone, and it just happens to have the term motion to commit. It is therefore appropriate at this time to vote on this subsidiary motion to take the action on the main motion.
Vicki Bedford. So who is going to pick this committee of presidents from the floor? Or is it going to go back to the contract committee for the suggestions that Jane provided?
Hold on one second. Let me get a second on Mike's motion.
Well, before I want to know who's going to be that committee, because that will determine how I vote.
But
I need to know who that committee is going to be.
Hold on a second. We'll get discussion in a few minutes.
Is his motion to commit? Because I didn't hear him use motion to commit.
He actually did say that. Right over here. This may not have been audible. He did say that. Do I have a second? A second? No. Now we have discussion. Okay.
Who's the committee going to be?
No, you need to go to Mike now. I just told you to stay there.
Vicki Ryan, Bedford, same question as before. So who chooses is that who chooses this new committee, or does it go back as I think Eileen Pico read, that it can go to an already established committee, which would be the contract committee, I guess. I don't know who you guys would pick. But is that the president's designation? Who's going to choose these committee members? How many people are supposed to be on this committee? And how long is this process supposed to take before and how long do we have before our current contract is up?
Mike, do you have any answer to that question that you made a motion?
I guess my thought would be on it, if you have an open forum here, if somebody has a logical question and it's respectful of it, then I think all of them ought to be considered. Why does it have to be of 1 or 2 people? Why can't it be 15 or 20? If it's logical, respectful, and to the point, I don't think it's a problem for 114 to be there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not, again, we're not on a different page here. I get what you're saying. We're not on a different page. We want to make sure it's right. And we want to have that discussion. So.
I was just giving my thought to process to what I quote.
And we've done it in the past, and I think it was better for it in the past with the landscaping contract. No question about it when we took out the without cause phrase there. So I understand that. So I've got a motion. Tom, you're coming up. You want to enter into the discussion, or?
Well, I might be speaking out of place and not at the appropriate time.
Sit down.
But I don't know yet. You'll let me know. You'll let me know.
I've not done that yet in my whole year, so just, you know. You?
Yeah. Anyway, I like the questions that are coming out, and I think they're appropriate. As far as the committee goes, I don't see why people can't send these questions that they have to the existing committee.
Contract committee, correct?
Contract committee, yeah. And do it that way rather than have to spend the time to create a whole other committee, to go to another committee, to go to the board, to get an answer, you know? I mean, we already have the one committee. We have the questions. You've all read the contracts. Send the questions into the committee. They can review them and take it from there. And I think it'll shorten the process.
Rick, how long would it be between now and the next meeting to notice everything, if we were going to do like we did the landscaping? How many days between now and then to set it up to get answers, to get questions generated and to do answers, and to notice the next because we can postpone, is I think what we're being asked to do.
Well, I think if everybody could email in their questions, I think that'd get a faster turnaround for 14 days. We could do 14 days for a special members meeting.
Yes, I call for the question. This is not material to what we're talking about. You have a motion on the floor and a second. Let's vote on that motion.
I'm looking for the date that we can, if we're going to postpone, we need to have a date in which we would have the postponed meeting, so I just want to clarify.
Can the language of this amendment, can it include language that says that the 114 presidents can be present at an event in this room to have an open dialogue? From that open dialogue, there can be reduced to writing some questions that perhaps at that time can be submitted, to suggest that people can submit questions today not knowing what the responses are to them. Is this going to fail? This is very important. We're going 3 years out. We're all hoping that we're going to have one board in Kings Point. The first service residential contract needs to survive. We need to survive that point in time when there's one board. There's a lot of things here I didn't quite understand. I heard it suggested that the increase of 20% was for workers' comp and insurance premiums. Well, if that's the case, then remove the percentage and just put in workers' comp and insurance premium increases. You know, there's many things that need to be addressed with regards to this contract. There's also
114. I mean, the
113.
113.
113. And the most important thing in the contract that wasn't touched on by Jane is there's a clause under 3132 that allows the management company going forward at their discretion to spend your money on things that they think are important in your association without the association's approval. Okay? If Lancaster 2 is deemed to have trees that are dangerous or ruining the sidewalks or driveways.
Steve, I'm going to go ahead and call for the motion on the motion that Mike made. So, I'll do a vote on the motion. It's the motion to postpone. And we will do a roll call on that so everybody's voice is heard.
Can you do it
Liz?
in reverse order?
Go ahead.
Roll call, reverse order.
Reverse order? Can we do it from the middle out both ways? At the same time, unanimous. Reverse order, correct?
Yes.
Okay, reverse order.
Yes.
Reverse orders. What is the purpose, Liz, just so we all know?
It's a good way to go.
Okay, it's a good way to go. We're just going to do roll call in the normal way. Let's do it from the top down.
Mr. President?
Yes.
State what we're voting on.
We are voting on committing to, actually, we're voting on just postponing this particular motion that was made by Tom to review in an open committee forum discussion after the questions are sent to the Federation and First Service, so we can look and see what the questions are, and then we'll have an open discussion about those to amend the contract.
So a yes is postpone, a no is don't postpone. Correct.
So a yes would be to postpone, and a no would be don't postpone. Move forward with the original motion. Okay? All right, we're going to do roll call.
Acadia. Acadia 2.
Yes.
Andover B. Andover C. Andover C. Andover D.
Yes.
Andover F. Andover H. Andover H. Andover I. Bedford A.
No.
Bedford C.
No.
Bedford D.
No.
Bedford E.
No.
Bedford E.
No.
Bedford H. You're a board member. Bedford H. Okay, Ryan is a board. Again, sir, Bedford H.
Did he sign in?
Yes.
Yes.
Brookfield.
No.
Cambridge A.
Yes.
Cambridge B.
No.
Cambridge H.
Yes.
Cambridge J. Cambridge J. Cambridge M. Cambridge M. Corinth.
Yes.
Dorchester A.
Yes.
Dorchester B.
No.
Dorchester C.
No.
Edinburgh.
Yes.
Fairborn.
Yes.
Fairfield C. Fairfield D. Fairfield D. Fairfield E.
No.
Fairfield G.
Yes.
Fairfield H. Gloucester A. Gloucester B.
Abstain.
Gloucester D. Gloucester E. Gloucester F. Gloucester H.
Yes.
Gloucester L.
Yes.
You said yes? Gloucester P. Grantham.
Yes.
Highgate B.
No.
Highgate C.
No.
Highgate 2. Highgate 2. Highgate 4.
No.
Huntington or Huntington.
Yes.
Idlewood.
Yes.
Jameson.
No.
Kensington.
Yes.
Knowles 2.
Yes.
Lancaster 1.
Yes.
Lancaster 2. Lancaster 2. Lancaster 4. Lancaster 4. Lyndhurst.
Yes.
Manchester 1.
Yes.
You said yes?
Yes.
Manchester 2.
Yes.
Manchester 3.
No.
Manchester 4.
Yes.
Maplewood.
Yes.
Nantucket 1.
Yes.
Nantucket 2.
Yes.
Nantucket 3.
Yes.
Nantucket 4.
Yes. Yes.
Nantucket 5.
Yes.
Oakley Green.
Yes.
Oxford 1.
Yes.
Oxford 2.
Yes.
Portsmouth.
Yes.
Princeton.
Yes.
Radisson 2.
Yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Somerset.
Yes.
Southampton 1.
Yes.
Southampton 2.
Yes.
Tremont 1. Tremont 2.
Yes.
Villeroy. Worlington.
Yes.
Yorkshire.
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 78% yes and 21.2% no.
Okay. At this point, the motion to commit has carried, and we will then need to set a new time for the next meeting. And we'll need Well, actually, I don't think, do we decide committee president, or we're going to do this open forum? Okay. We're going to establish then committee presidents. So, who would volunteer to be on this committee to discuss this? Yeah, actually, that's what I thought. I think that was Steve's suggestion. Is that correct, Steve?
Ryan,
You just have a general open forum. Go ahead, Dal.
why do we have to have a committee? Why can't we have a special meeting? Meet in here and have an open forum?
Well, his motion did call.
Because that's what his motion called for.
His motion called for a committee of presidents.
Have a show of hands.
Are we voting?
Do we need another committee?
Are you showing? Is that your show of hands? Or you?
No, I'm suggesting that when you ask for, if everyone wants to participate, it is called a committee of the whole.
Yeah. I don't have a problem just coming back and meeting and this.
So you would refer to it as a committee of the whole.
Yeah. All right. We can. Do we? Okay. We'll have. Let's have.
He called for a committee of presidents, and I don't have his motion, but I don't think he called for a committee of whole.
Yes.
And it doesn't define.
Mike, would you like to alter your, would you like to amend it to a committee of the whole, just so we can have a conversation?
It's already voted for a committee of presidents.
Okay. Yeah, at this point, my belief is a committee of the whole would be the best approach. Well, no, then. Yeah, we'll consider a committee of all the presidents, a committee of the whole, and we will put a time. When's a good time to redo it? We're going to set a day and get a calendar. We're going to pick a date and blast it out. Where are we going to get to have the? Where are we going to get the email questions? It'll be blasted out with the instructions of where to send all the directions, and you can bring your questions to that meeting on the date we'll send it out. So we will send it out. We will get this worked out.
He'll contact every president once we get a date.
He'll contact every president. So we're good. We're going to have a committee with everybody has an opportunity. It is your contract. I want you guys to be comfortable and feel good about what we have. We'll move forward at that point. We will blast it out, and we will get you all the details so we can get your questions handled and questions detailed. The previous motion is postponed. And we will be bringing our attorney to the meeting just so we can make sure we do all the things legally and properly. All right? At this point, there's nothing else except to go with good and welfare. That motion
Ryan,
is carried.
Well,
Yes.
they're coming up to the mic. I wanted to mention that somebody has left their TENS unit up here. I thought it was his, he thought it was mine. It's somebody maybe missing that, so.
No, I dropped that off earlier. It was found in Manchester for on the
That was a lost.
Oh, it was found in Manchester. If anybody knows who this belongs to, it's...
Good and welfare, Dale.
Dale Dewar, Oxford 2. We were approaching some of the presidents before the meeting, and we'd like to ask you if any president that's here or representing your board, if you'd like to stay after this meeting. It has nothing to do with the Federation, and what it is we're reaching out, we're looking for opinions, and we want to hear you out on those of you presidents, associations, as we, as association members, are members of the master board. So therefore, we want to discuss removing the irrigation contract from the master to put it back to the Federation to go out for bid so that we, as association members, have more say-so and control on the irrigation contract. All we're doing is getting a feeling for what you want, and then we will go from there. We're not going to do any voting, so if you're interested, please stay after this meeting. It's going to be very short. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Let me go over here and start. Alan?
Alan Snyder, Fairfield G. I have several questions, and they're all pertaining to the amount of motor vehicle accidents that have happened at the front gate or within Kings Point. A lot of people have asked me if there is any way we publish the type of accident, what caused it. Additionally, has a study been done for maybe traffic lights on Kings Boulevard to slow the motor vehicles so people can turn onto Kings from Andover, Bedford, Fairfield? Also, I was asked, would Kings Point be held liable if there was a severe motor vehicle accident in Kings Point if we didn't have any of these things in?
Alan, good questions. And we've talked about it before, since we don't have any venue over the highways, the streets in Kingsville. It'd be a great message to ask Steve and Jane, because they are in charge of that.
The reason I wanted to state it here was because of the membership of the people.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew Rick. I'm Dick Bishop from the Radio Club here in Kings Point. We're working on disaster preparedness, and one of the things that always comes up is communication. How do you communicate in a disaster? If you didn't have a cell phone or a phone and needed to call first services or the emergency squad or 911, how do you do it without a telephone? Well, the Kings Point Amateur Radio Club has set up a network within Kings Point to receive radio calls. Now, what we're proposing is the residents and the Federation Association board members have a radio, low cost, no license. These are $15. And we would like to see at least 2 of them in every association, so that on your bulletin board you could post where these radios are located. If we ever have a disaster that takes out our phones, hopefully never, there is a backbone way that you could call first services or call for medical emergency at the squad. These are very inexpensive, $15. I'd like to see every president, we have a flyer up at the table that tells you how to contact the radio club, how to purchase a radio. If we wanted to do it as a group, maybe the board could support us and we could look for a grant and just provide the radios. They're not that much money. It's good insurance. We already have tested these radios in Kings Point. They do work. I think it's a good program. I hope that most of you do. Come by the table, pick up a flyer, and let's go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan?
Dan Page, treasurer of Andover T. I've been a member of many clubs here at Kings Point, and we used to meet from 7 to 10, allowing till 10:30 to empty the place. And then we were told we had to be out by 10. So we changed the times from 7 to 10 to 6:30 to 9:30. The last 2 months we've been told the doors are being locked at 9:30 instead of 10 o'clock. The dances that I go to, most people don't get there till 6:45, 7 o'clock. I'd like to know why we're being told. One of the guards told me a woman was locked in at 9:30 because they locked the door. It couldn't take a half hour to go around and lock the doors here. We can lock the doors ourselves.
Dan, that's our rules and regs, so I think you should reach out to the rules and regs because they would establish, I believe, Ginger, am I correct on that? No? They said, okay, she said she'll look into it with the rules and regs and see if they can clarify what you're asking. Very good, thank you. Mike?
Mike Bardell, Chief of the Sun City Center Emergency Squad. I just want to tell you that next Tuesday, from 9 to 11 in the theater here, there's going to be a presentation on disaster. We've brought a lot of different speakers in to talk to you in a very quick format. Each speaker is only going to get 5 minutes. And then you're going to get an opportunity, if you got some specific question in one of those areas, you'll be able to talk to them after that is over with. It's going to be a real nice event, I think. I understand that there's going to be cookies there. Augusta left on me here, but that's what's, there's going to be cookies and stuff. There will be raffles that will be giving away stuff. But I think it would be very good for you. 40 to 50% of this community has never been through a hurricane. That's how long it's been. You need to know what to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Patty Delaney, President Richmond. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the free tax program that we offer here at Kings Point, sponsored by the IRS, AARP, and our own COA. Just to let you know that we do provide free tax preparation, electronic filing for most tax returns. And if you have any questions, please feel free to speak with me. Or I do have flyers if you want to make them available within your associations, post them on your bulletin boards. Thank you very much.
Very good. Forrest.
Thank you. Forrest Davis from COA. As you know from Ryan's message earlier this morning, your participation in that moment of silence, our COA president, Charles Hassel, passed away a week ago today. I just want to let everyone know that there will be a celebration of life ceremony on Saturday, February 29th at 2 p.m. in the Waterside Room. This is being done by the family, and all are welcome. Next announcement, COA has now switched our business meetings to the first Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. We were running into conflict with the Queen's Luncheon, and you don't want to mess with the Queen. So we've changed our meeting date, and it'll be from now on, it'll be on the first Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. Our first meeting event on this coming Tuesday, March 3rd, hopefully will be meet the Federation candidates that are running for the Federation Board this year. That program will begin at 2 p.m. in the banquet room. I hope all the candidates will let us know if they're going to. Letters have been sent out to each of the candidates. And the program has always been a great time for all. Merino Bakery goodies will be available, and we know everybody loves those pastries. So please come and join us.
Great. Thank you, Forrest. Next.
Tom Hughes, Andover F. The day of March 6th, when we're having the garage sale. Immediately following that, from 4:30 to 7:30, in the Waterside Room and Gazebo at the North Clubhouse. At a cost of $10 per person, the Dog Lovers Club is having our second annual Hot Diggity Dog. And the two menu choices are you get a choice of 2 hot dogs or 1 hamburger. And whatever choice you make, you also get potato salad, beans, soda, and a cookie. And that'll be March 6th. Please come and support our Kings Point Dog Park.
Very good, thank you. Kings Point is the land of cookies, isn't it? Cookies everywhere. Next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Some of what I'm going to say is it's only secondhand to me.
Start with your name and association.
Pardon? Oh, my name is Charles Ferris, Nantucket. At the club, the food and beverage has gone up 40%. I do believe that they should have had an increase in both them products. And the part that I'm not quite sure of is everybody tells me that this is supposed to be non-profit. So if it goes up 40%, it might be a little excessive, and maybe you could start to look into it, the reason for this large amount. I'm only bringing it out there.
I think I addressed that at the last membership meeting, if I'm mistaken. There have been substantial price increases with materials, cost of goods, and things like that, no question about it. So we did address that, and I think we covered pretty thoroughly. And I'll get the information to you if you want.
Well, I mean 40%.
I can put it out again.
If you got improvements of something that's there, it's, you know, Okay, so you can absorb some of
Yeah,
that.
just to clarify one thing, the fact that we're not-for-profit doesn't mean you don't have a surplus.
Well, everybody has a
Yeah,
profit.
that's a tax code, and that's just how you use where you put your surplus. And remember, if we don't increase over time with the cost that our goods did increase, we end up paying, we're gonna pay for it at some level. So we've tried to be economically feasible. I think some of these increases some of them probably should have happened a long time ago and just eased into it, but we did get caught with some substantial increases relative to tariff wars. You're familiar with the event of today, the tariff wars and the different imports and things like that. Promises of minimum wage increases have driven the prices up. So we just adapt and adopt as the cost of goods adapt and adopt. It did go up, I get it, but it's not a planned increase.
I mean, the reason I'm saying that is, I do believe the prices a long time ago should have gone up. I mean, that's not our fault.
Right.
We don't set that, they do. So, but to turn around and throw 40%.
Yeah, that was not the motivation.
Throw 40% at somebody, it's sort of like, wait a minute.
I get your concern, not the motivation behind it. It was actually done because of the environmental and business conditions. So,
Ginger's on against the wall over there. Ginger, do you want, or Rudy, if he's still here, want to attempt to address? Because the one thing the members need to understand is that if we don't increase the food, and the food is paying for the majority of operation of that South Club, that the members will individually pay in assessments if we lose money for the operations. So increasing the cost of food to cover the cost, it just doesn't cover the cost of food or the beverage, it covers the cost of the wait staff, the electricity, the building, the maintenance of that building. All those monies that we make come back, or if they make money, come back into this community. If you want us to lower the cost, or Vesta to lower the cost down, then every single resident in this community may be charged additional monthly assessments.
I don't think that's what he was saying, actually. Yeah.
Just a minute. I've gone out to places outside of Kings Point and paid less. They have a business to run. They have people, workman's comp, so they have to pay their people, and they have to make a profit also. Okay, for something that's supposed to be nonprofit, which is, I mean, that's like toilet paper. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that when you take and throw 40% at somebody, if you went outside and you went over here to Bob Evans and they threw 40%, how many times would you go back to Bob Evans?
Again, at this point, let's...
You understand what I...
No, I understand where you're coming
sense.
from. I get your point. I get your point. And I think we answered it for the most part. There have been increases. It's not based on an increase, just a random increase for making surplus and profit. It's been done because the environmental and marketing conditions have actually done that, and we've addressed those. And you're right. Things should have probably inched up over the years, but we got caught with a lot of the current events happening. We got hit with a lot of increases. I think I sent that out and addressed it the last meeting.
But I mean, it wasn't a gradual thing. The gradual thing, I think people take...
We got it.
But when you're taking this, all of a sudden, it's just like if you went to get your car serviced and all of a sudden...
I understand. Thank you. I understand. I get you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? I see people moving this way. Nope, not moving this way. All right, at this point, get a motion to adjourn. Second? Enjoy your retirement.